Tonight, breaking news for the first time, President Biden on Donald Trump's guilty verdict and Donald Trump's fury today at Trump Tower. Also tonight, the deadly explosion at that bank and apartment building. New images tonight, one of the victims being rescued. And what you might not remember from 9/11, 2 pilots in the air, 2 fighter jets, and what they were willing to do. First, former President Donald Trump railing against his conviction on 34 felony counts. Trump attacking the judge today who will decide his fate, the judge who will sentence Trump in just weeks. And tonight, President Biden making his first comments on the verdict and what he said about those jurors. Also, President Biden saying it is time to end the war, revealing to the world today the offer that's been made to Hamas to try to get a ceasefire, to try to get the hostages out, and what Israel and Hamas are now indicating. Tonight, a retired 4-star Navy admiral charged with bribery, what he's accused of doing. That harrowing new body camera video just moments after a deadly explosion in a 13-story building with that bank and apartments. You will see firefighters carrying a woman up a ladder to get her out. The dramatic scene in court, the woman sentenced for helping her boyfriend kill his wife, a mother of 4, and dispose of the evidence. The mother's children speaking out for the first time, their message to the woman who helped take their mother's life. The actor from General Hospital shot and killed, and tonight for the first time, the friend who was right there and who witnessed the horror, her interview here tonight. We're tracking severe storms and flash flooding from Texas to Colorado, the system then moving east. Multiple states this weekend, possible tornadoes, damaging winds, and we'll track it. Crowning a new spelling bee champion tonight. Could you spell several words in just a matter of seconds?
Sinif.
S-C-I-N-I-P-H.
Voussoir.
V-O-U-S-S-O-I-R.
It's only the second time they've had to do this. And America strong tonight. The Air Force Lieutenant General, father and husband, and what he was willing to do on 9/11. He was in the air on that fateful day, and what he and one other pilot were ready to do.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a Friday night. We do begin tonight with former President Donald Trump's fury at Trump Tower today unleashing after being found guilty on 34 felony counts. And tonight here for the first time, President Biden breaking his silence on the verdict and what he said about the jurors in this case. ABC's Rachel Scott leading us off.
Tonight, President Biden speaking out for the first time since his rival, former President Donald Trump, was convicted of 34 felony counts, declaring the verdict should be respected.
The American principle that no one is above the law was reaffirmed.
Biden praising the regular Americans who sat on the 12-person jury, saying Trump was given every opportunity to defend himself and denouncing Trump's efforts to undermine the criminal justice system.
It's reckless, it's dangerous, it's irresponsible for anyone to say this was rigged just because they don't like the verdict. Our justice system. The justice system should be respected, and we should never allow anyone to tear it down.
But from Trump today, defiance and fury. At Trump Tower, the former president lashing out in a 33-minute speech, making the outrageous claim that the U.S. is fascist.
This is a case where if they can do this to me, they can do this to anyone.
Trump claiming he's done nothing wrong.
I paid a lawyer, a legal expense, and a bookkeeper without any knowledge from me correctly marked it down in the books.
But the jury saw it differently. 7 men, 5 women, those jurors selected by both the defense and the prosecution from all walks of life, determining Trump did commit crimes, convicting him on all 34 counts of falsifying business records, to conceal a $130,000 hush money payment to porn star Stormy Daniels to keep her story from voters before the 2016 election. And tonight, questions about whether Trump violated the gag order still in place and bringing up his former friend and fixer Michael Cohen.
I'm not allowed to use his name because of the gag order. But, you know, he's a sleazebag.
Judge Juan Merchan, who held Trump in criminal contempt 10 times, fining him $10,000 during the trial, has said that if Trump violates the order again, he'd risk going to jail. Trump attacked him too, calling him a devil and a tyrant. It will be Merchan who sentences the former president on July 11th, just 4 days before he's set to accept the Republican nomination for president.
And so let's bring in Rachel Scott with us here in New York tonight. And Rachel, of course, reported there on what Donald Trump said today, going after the judge. But we should point out this is the very judge who will decide Trump's fate in just a matter of weeks.
It is, David. And again, that sentencing is set for July 11th. That's just 4 days before the Republican National Convention. It will be up to Judge Juan Marchand to decide whether the former president gets prison time, home confinement, probation, or fines. And tonight, so many are questioning why the former president would go after the very judge who was ultimately responsible for deciding his fate, David.
In a matter of weeks here, we'll be on that, of course, as well. Rachel, thank you for this week. We turn to other news this Friday evening. The other major headline from the White House tonight, President Biden taking the dramatic move of going public with the deal being offered to Hamas, revealing to the world the offer that's been made to try to get a ceasefire, to try to get the hostages out, and to get more humanitarian aid into Gaza. The president tonight saying it is time for this war to end, and Israel and Hamas, what they're indicating already tonight. Mary Bruce at the White House.
Tonight, in a dramatic move, President Biden laying out in great detail for the world to see the ceasefire deal Israel has put on the table, challenging Hamas to get on board as Biden himself faces growing political pressure here at home.
It's time for this war to end.
The president, in stark terms, assuring that Hamas has been drastically degraded.
At this point, Hamas no longer is capable of carrying out another October 7th. It's one of Israel's main objectives in this war, and quite frankly, a righteous one.
Biden, for the first time, pulling back the curtain on negotiations. The first phase, an initial 6-week ceasefire with women, children, and the most vulnerable hostages returned in exchange for the release of hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. Israeli troops would withdraw from populated areas in Gaza, and humanitarian aid would surge in. What comes next, far more complicated. The temporary ceasefire would hold while Israel and Hamas negotiate a permanent plan, a full end to fighting and release of the remaining hostages.
Hamas needs to take the deal.
Just days after the Israelis cautioned the war would continue through the end of the year, Biden with a message to them too, urging Prime Minister Netanyahu to stand behind this deal, despite pressure from hardliners to keep up the fight. The president now declaring enough is enough.
It's time to begin this new stage. For the hostages to come home, for Israel to be secure, for the suffering to stop.
Tonight, Israel is expressing its support for this plan. Hamas saying they too view it positively, but there is still a long road ahead here. President Biden clearly eager to get this done. He'd certainly like to see some progress by Election Day, David.
Mary Bruce at the White House again tonight. Thanks, Mary. Tonight, the retired 4-star admiral, once the #2 officer in the Navy, arrested on bribery charges. What he's accused of doing. Here's Martha Raddatz.
He is a retired 4-star admiral, the #2 position in all of the Navy. But this morning, Admiral Robert Burke was arrested at his home in Florida on bribery charges for allegedly directing a lucrative government training contract to a private company that promised him a $500,000 annual salary plus stock options after retirement. Prosecutors say the bribery scheme happened over a 2-year period from 2020 to 2022, at a time Burke commanded thousands of U.S. forces as head of naval operations in Europe and Africa. The indictment says that within months of his retirement, Burke went to work for the company and received his $500,000 salary. The U.S. Attorney's Office saying Admiral Burke not only used his public office and his 4-star status for his private gain, but tried to cover it up by falsely implying he had no role in awarding the contract.
Admiral Burke has not yet been arraigned, so he has not yet entered a plea. David?
Martha Raddatz reporting from Washington. Thanks, Martha. We're going to turn next year this evening to the harrowing new body camera video showing the moments after that deadly explosion at a bank and apartment building in Youngstown, Ohio. The video shows officers racing to the scene of that blast. The video showing firefighters desperately trying to save those trapped, pulling one woman from the debris. Here's Alex Perez.
Hey, back up, back up, back up, back up! Tonight, dramatic video from an officer's body-worn camera shows the aftermath of a massive, deadly explosion in Youngstown, Ohio. The sound of gas hissing as firefighters race to find survivors amid the rubble moments after the blast collapsed part of the building's first floor into the basement.
You hold this ladder, go.
Teams lowering a ladder into the crater. That firefighter carrying that victim up the ladder out of the pit on his back, screaming in pain as they move her away from the building. The blast at the 13-story apartment building, killing an employee inside the bank on the first floor, 7 others taken to the hospital.
And David, construction crews were working in the basement, and officials believe they may have cut a gas line that was supposed to be out of service, causing that explosion. David?
Alex Perez on this again tonight. Thank you. In the Northeast, the dramatic scene in a Connecticut courtroom, the woman sentenced for helping her boyfriend kill his wife, a mother of 4, and dispose of the evidence. Here's Stephanie Ramos.
Tonight, gut-wrenching testimony at the sentencing for Michelle Troconis, the woman convicted of plotting with her boyfriend to kill his estranged wife, Jennifer Dulos, a Connecticut mother of 5.
Michelle Troconis shattered Jennifer's family.
Dulos' children speaking for the first time alongside pictures with their mother.
I've been left with a hole inside of me that I know I will never be able to fill.
Jennifer Dulos disappeared 5 years ago. After his arrest, husband Fotis Dulos took his own life. But prosecutors put Troconis on trial, showing this video they said proved she helped Dulos dispose of the evidence. Dulos' daughter, Christiane, who was just 10 years old, saying this about the woman who conspired to kill her mom.
Michelle Troconis to me is the reason I feel completely lost and alone on nights when I cannot sleep. She's the reason why I've blocked out my childhood. And that day so much I can barely remember it.
Through tears, Troconis' only child asked the judge for mercy.
I am begging you to listen. I need my mom in my life.
Michelle Troconis then making her own plea.
I deeply regret ever being in a relationship with Fotis Dulos and bringing my daughter, my family, and myself into our lives, into his life.
The judge sentencing Troconis to 14.5 years. Michelle Troconis maintains her innocence. The family and friends of Jennifer Dulos had asked the judge for the maximum sentence of 45 years. David.
Stephanie Ramos with us here tonight. Steph, thank you. We turn now to the awful case, the actor from General Hospital who was shot and killed. And tonight here for the first time, the friend who was right there and who witnessed the horror, speaking to our Mola Lengi.
Just days after the fatal shooting of former General Hospital actor Johnny Wactor, his co-worker and friend, Anita Joy, who was with him in those final moments, speaking out.
Can you take me back to that night?
A man is down like on his knees putting a jack under the car, and he had the car halfway jacked up. And then we realized this is not tow people.
The two had finished their bartending shift at around 3 a.m. Saturday in downtown Los Angeles and were walking to their cars when police say they came across 3 suspects in masks attempting to steal Wactor's catalytic converter, which contains valuable metals enticing to thieves. Joy says Wactor approached one of the suspects, who then instantly opened fire, striking Wactor in the chest.
I had blood in my hands. So I ripped his shirt open and he had a shot right to his chest. I was just screaming at him, trying to tell him to stay with me and that I love him and, like, you know, don't go.
The 37-year-old rushed to the hospital where he was pronounced dead.
They didn't even get the catalytic converter. That's what they were going for. They left with Johnny's life instead.
Well, David, LAPD says they are still searching for those 3 suspects who investigators say fled the scene in a dark-colored sedan, David.
Right, Mola Lengi tonight. Thank you, Mola. We do have a passing to note this evening. The mother of former First Lady Michelle Obama has died, Marian Robinson. Many will recall Marian Robinson as a fixture, a force in the Obama White House. She famously lived there, helping to care for her granddaughters, and she was a trusted voice for her daughter. The Obama said she passed away peacefully this morning. Marian Robinson was 86. When we come back here tonight, severe storms across several states and then moving east just as we start the weekend. Possible tornadoes, damaging winds will have the forecast. And something many will not remember from 9/11, what 2 pilots in the air were willing to do. Tonight, severe storms and possible flash flooding from Texas to Colorado. At least 2 reported tornadoes near Midland, Texas in the last 24 hours. That same system, Texas to Minnesota this weekend. When we come back here, something we have only seen twice ever at the Spelling Bee, and then 2 pilots in the air on 9/11 and what they were ready to do. To the index, the new Scripps National Spelling Bee champ racing to victory, a remarkable 29 words in 90 seconds in a very rare tie-breaking spell-off.
Panettiere.
Panetiere.
Sagai.
Sagai.
Nachschlager.
NACHSCHLAGE.
Just incredible. 12-year-old Bruhat Soma of Tampa winning the Scripps Cup and $50,000. When we come back here, 2 fighter pilots in the air on 9/11 and what they were willing to do. Finally tonight here, the F-16 fighter pilot, father and husband, and what he was willing to do on 9/11. He and another pilot were in the air, and they were ready, knowing it could have been their final mission. Tonight, the gratitude, the send-off, all these years later. Here's Martha Raddatz.
You are watching U.S. Air Force Lieutenant General Marc Sasseville suit up for the last time.
Great flight, sir.
Thank you.
Walking out to the fighter jet with his name on the side, his call sign Sass. Taking off from Joint Base Andrews near Washington, the same base where 23 years ago he was sent on a mission he thought could be his last.
When you take off in your fighter jet, you don't really know what your mission is.
We don't really know what our mission is.
2 hijacked planes had hit the Twin Towers, and just a few miles away, another had hit the Pentagon.
One of the memories that will stay with me forever is seeing the Pentagon on fire and being able to smell the fumes that were coming off of that. Just the burning concrete, the fuel from the airplane that had hit. And I tell you, Martha, what I was thinking about was December 7th, 1941. Here we go again.
He would get his orders, along with F-16 pilot 26-year-old Heather Penny, find a rogue passenger jet, United Flight 93. Their F-16s did not have missiles on board. It was a different time. So Penny and Sasseville with 2 young children at home, decided that they would ram the missing hijacked plane with their fighter jets.
You both agreed that if you had to, you would engage in a suicide mission.
It's a testament to Sass's leadership that he didn't ask anyone else to lead that mission. He wouldn't ask anyone else to give what he was unwilling to give.
The fighter pilots would later discover the passengers and crew on Flight 93 had stormed the cockpit, the plane crashing into a Shanksville, Pennsylvania field.
If those heroes on 93, and by the way, those are the real heroes, if they hadn't taken action and they hadn't done what needed to be done, it would have been a very different outcome for me and my family.
But he kept quiet about his own role that day.
When you went home, your wife and kids are there. What'd you say?
Well, I said nothing at first. I hugged them and squeezed them very tightly. And I didn't tell them, actually, for a while what had happened. And I told them that I loved them. And I was going to be gone to work for a long time because something very bad had happened to America.
Eventually, his wife, Karen, hearing the whole story.
What did you think of what you did?
She was in awe.
She was proud of you.
She was. She was.
And Karen and the kids were there for his retirement ceremony this week after some 40 years of service.
It has been a tremendous honor and a privilege to serve, and a truly rare opportunity for me and my family to make a difference. Now you have the watch. Thank you all.
One last speech and one last flight. Karen moved to tears, his children Lauren and Luke waiting with pride. The fighter pilot who was prepared to give his own life to save others.
Oh, Dad, I'm so proud of you. Oh, I love you. Love you.
And so tonight we salute Lieutenant General Marc Sasseville and retired Major Heather Penny for their service and what they were willing to do on that fateful day. I'm David Muir. Thank you for being here with us this week. I'll see you on Monday night. Good night.
Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir America's most watched newscast.